why the relics and weapons of marathon warriors are in Israel and Canada. It's me, I always thought that they were in the mound of Marathon, in Marathon outside of Athens, Greece. This is fantasy content with elements of creating writing. We all know, or should know, about the Battle of Marathon, which took place in late summer, early autumn, 490 BC. It was a conflict between the Athenians and the Persians during the latter's first invasion of Greece. An army of about 11,000 Greeks against some 100,000 Persians. They had 1,000 Greeks from each of the 10 little enclaves of Athens and 1,000 of Plataea, so that makes 11,000. Many strange things happened in this battle. Among them was the one with an unknown man who suddenly appeared in the Greek camp dressed as completely unfamiliar uniform, holding in his hands something that looked like a plow handle, and with this strange weapon, Echetlaos, as he was called, exterminated many Persians, and after the battle, the unknown man disappeared in the same way that he had appeared. Suddenly, no one ever learned anything about him. Actually, he was a giant of light that wielded a type of a laser sword, according to what one of the marathon warriors stated. Now, professors and scholars dismissed Pausanias' description of Echetlaos as a figment of his imagination, because the warrior that saw him then later went blind. They said he was blind. He went blind because of battle fatigue or something. But anyway, going back to this, professor and scholar dismissed Pausanias' description of Echetlaos as a figment of his imagination, or interpreted it as an improvised myth. However, foreign universities, especially those in Canada and Israel, in cooperation, paid a little more attention to the subject and associated the Philadelphia experiment with the Battle of Marathon. They sent, therefore, scientists along with the first of the excellent students on an educational trip to Marathon in Greece. When they arrived at the historical plain, and in cooperation with Greek universities and competent ministries, they received some information. And these led to the conclusion that, especially during the Battle of Marathon, the morphology of the ground and subsoil was such that they created the largest natural electrical capacitor in the world. It could be charged with currents from falling lightning or by unknown artificial means that the ancient Greeks may have had. The plain capacitor at certain intervals of time could be discharged. When it was discharged, it created an electromagnetic field of a similar size, and within this, Echetlaos could appear and disappear. If, of course, any of these things were true at the same time, students and scientists wondered why the same did not happen to the two opposing armies. That is, to disappear from the battlefield and to appear somewhere else. There was only one way to verify the plane capacitor theory, since it was no longer possible to conduct experiments in an open space and in plain view to determine whether the plane was indeed a capacitor or not. The two foreign universities chose to collaborate with the competent ministries and take at their disposal for study whatever bones and weapons of the Marathon warriors were available for genetic and other studies. They hoped to find traces in them that would indicate possibly that they had been exposed to an electromagnetic field or other evidence that could determine in some way whether Echetlaos was in Pausanias' imagination or not, and furthermore whether the plane ever functioned as a natural capacitor by natural or artificial means. The signatures were signed, and the skeletons of the warriors, their clothing, and anything metallic. Let's remember that the Athenians wore brass armor. So anything metallic slowly began to travel to Canada and Israel. They left with the promise that the relics and everything they had borrowed would return at some point in the future. However, all parties involved knew very well that this was not possible, as the objects to be examined could suffer damage that would destroy them. Even if they avoided this, the constantly evolving technology would always delay their return, since progress was destined to constantly re-examine and verify previous results that came from inferior technology. Now, going back to all this, what happens and the mysteries having to do with battles, let's remember, if we read in the Old Testament, the book of the Maccabees, remember when the Maccabees were fighting the ancient Greeks, and the ancient Greeks saw huge light beings behind the Maccabees holding weapons. The Maccabees were not able to see these light beings, but the ancient Greeks were. They were arrayed to have a war. The ancient Greeks dropped all their weapons and ran off because they saw who was standing behind the Maccabees. I guess you could call them angel beings, angels of light. The Maccabees were not seeing them, but the ancient Greeks did. They left, they ran off, they left their weapons, and then, of course, the weapons were collected and taken by the Maccabees after that. So, yeah, things like that sometimes do happen. Please leave your comments about this. Thank you for your support. My Patreon account, the daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.